count on LEX 18 News.
A violent attack injured a student on the campus of Transylvania University.
Pulled out the hatchet and just kind of hit it on the table.
Plus, we've learned the identity and new details about the man accused.
The suspect was once here on the campus, was once a student.
Team coverage is straight ahead. And just blocks away, a woman was rushed to the hospital after a stabbing at a high-rise building.
LEX 18 News at 5 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Christopher.
I'm Nancy Cox. Thank you for joining us at 5. It was a terrifying morning on the campus of Transylvania University in Lexington. Investigators say 19-year-old Mitchell Adkins of Cincinnati got into a campus cafe on Broadway and 3rd Streets and attacked 2 women with a machete.
Then the former student was taken into custody. Lee Searcy's been on campus all day, and she begins our LEX 18 Big Story team coverage. Lee?
Well, classes were canceled today after that violent, out-of-the-blue attack. The 2 victims are okay. One was treated here at the scene, the other taken to UK hospital for her injuries. Take a look. This is the person that police have charged. He is 19-year-old Mitchell Adkins. That's according to 3 witnesses and people who actually know him. They confirmed to us that this is his Facebook picture. Now let's get back to what happened today. This all went down right before 9 o'clock this morning at the campus coffee shop Jasmine. Witnesses say Mitchell walked in yelling and attacked the 2 female students with a machete. A viewer shot cell phone video of the victim on a stretcher soon after the attack. She was alert and talking. Witnesses say Mitchell could be heard yelling, "This is the day of reckoning," then pulled out the machete and attacked that student. Campus police quickly tackled him and took him into custody. We're told that Transy's president was there and also assisted. This is what we know about Mitchell. Police say he is a former Transylvania University student. People with Transy connections tell me he reportedly left the school angry after getting pushback, major pushback, from some controversial conservative views he expressed. A witness who didn't want to speak publicly told me when he walked in the cafe, he immediately started asking people what political affiliation they are. I'm told the victims gave him an answer he didn't like, and that's when he stabbed them. Lexington police are staying tight-lipped about a motive.
The suspect was once here on the campus, was once a student and had returned. So that looks to be part of the motive, what's going on, and why that person returned, we're not for sure, but we do know that. We're following up on that, and we'll be looking at his background.
And we will have more on Atkins' troubling past coming up tonight at 6. But our Kelsey Borza actually talked to a witness who saw him walk into that coffee shop, and she joins us now with those details. Kelsey?
Lee, that's right. Yeah, I talked to a Transy student this morning just moments after the attack, and he told me he actually encountered the man right before the attack. He says he was walking through the parking lot to get to the coffee shop when he saw the man get out of his truck. He says they both were walking towards the coffee shop at the same time, and he opened the door for the man. He said at the time he just thought he looked like a contractor or a handyman, and he had with him what looked like a tool bag.
I went into Jasmine's, held the door open for him, and then he just came in, and I mean, again, like, he was dressed as kind of like a contract worker or something, and no one really knew what was going on, what to expect, and they just pulled out the hatchet and just kind of hit it on the table, and we all just looked over there. And again, I think the biggest shock was just students didn't know what was going on, didn't know if this was something serious. I mean, it was just, because you never expect something like that to happen on your campus.
Michael then told me he actually heard the man shout, "This is the day of reckoning." He says the next thing he did was asked one of the girls in the coffee shop, "Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican?" She answered she was a Republican. He says then he heard the man ask another woman what her political affiliation was. He says that's when it was just chaos inside of the coffee shop and everyone went running. We're covering the news live in Lexington from the LEX 18 mobile newsroom. Back to you.
Kelsey Borza and Lee Searcy, thank you. Well, it was certainly a tense morning for students at other schools near Transy's campus. Administrators at Sayre School, which is several blocks from Transy's campus, say as investigators work to secure the area, they went on lockdown as a precaution.
You know, schools like ours and any other institution, you have security measures in place to make sure that, you know, if something happens, that you can respond quickly, which is certainly what we were doing here.
Several Fayette County public schools were placed on heightened alert for a time today, and those schools included Harrison Elementary, William Wells Brown Elementary, Lexington Traditional Magnet School, and the STEAM Academy.
We will continue to update this story throughout the evening on our website, lex18.com, and stay connected to all those updates anywhere you are with the LEX18 News app for your smartphone.
Well, strangely enough, there was another stabbing this morning in Lexington, not too far from the Transy campus. This happened at a high-rise apartment building near Jefferson and West 2nd. As LEX18 Michael Burke reports, Lexington police believe the victim of a stabbing at this location will be able to lead them to her attacker.
Lexington police were called to the Griffith Ballard Tower shortly after 10 this morning to investigate a stabbing. The incident occurred in one of the apartments and then spilled out onto the street on the corner of 2nd and Jefferson. That's where the victim was spotted after suffering what police described as serious wounds from a stabbing attack. While she recovers from her injuries at the UK Medical Center, police were working to track down her attacker, who they only described as being a female. Gregory Gill was at the towers this morning visiting friends, as he's done many times before.
Police come to good time to time. But, you know, we know it's little small skirmishes that somebody may be just intoxicated, something like that. Something of something this high up, or something of this nature, that's surprising.
And once the victim does recover from her wounds, police tell us she will be able to be a big help in identifying her attacker. Covering the news in Lexington, from the LEX18 mobile newsroom, back to you.
Red index is a 2, but right now all is quiet, but things are likely to change as we go through the latter part of the afternoon, especially into this evening. When we're at the level 2, what we're talking about is the threat for, well, tornado watch possibilities is really what takes us to that 2. Also the flooding potential later on tonight. What we're looking at is evening severe weather chances, and then as we transition to the hours after midnight, it becomes more of a flooding risk, and that's going to be mainly across the north half of the area, both for the severe weather as well as the flooding potential. But wind, large hail, tornadoes, all a possibility tonight. From the folks at the Storm Prediction Center, from I-75 eastward, it's a slight risk of severe storms. From I-75 westward, including Lexington, it's their next level up. It's the enhanced risk of severe weather. MaxTrack Live Doppler at the moment, we've got one isolated shower there, Lee County coming out of Jackson County. You've got another one just north of the Ohio River. Most of the storms are back in Illinois and Indiana, where it is a vigorous storm complex for them. But this whole area down here, centered on Bowling Green coming up toward us, should begin to develop showers and storms within the next couple of hours. Flood watches north of I-64, Scott, Franklin, Harrison County, Robertson, as well as Mason County. Again, we're tracking the potential for these strong storms through this evening. We'll have more for you in just a couple of minutes.
All right, Bill, we'll see you then.
Not guilty pleas for 3 kidnapping suspects in front of a Lexington judge this morning.
John Cooper, Zachary Costin, and Ethan Hatfield are accused of kidnapping, robbing, and beating a man in a $2.5 million home back in March. According to court papers, Hatfield and Costin beat the victim with a pistol and hammer and threatened to kill the man's family. Police say they took the man's watch and phone and then let him go without any clothing on. The 3 will be back in court May 25th.
The unexpected death of a Lexington high school student this week has touched many people across the community. As the healing process is just beginning, other high schools are doing what they can to show support to the Dunbar community. LEX18's Angie Bevan reports.
Condolences and support continue to pour in here at Dunbar High School following the sudden loss of sophomore Star Afacho. This morning, this banner and dozens of cards were dropped off to Dunbar High School. Lexington Catholic students spent part of yesterday making the poster and writing all of the meaningful messages. Lexington Catholic School chaplain Father Norman Fisher took everything over to Dunbar this morning. 15-year-old Star Afacho suddenly passed away Wednesday evening. The sophomore basketball player was participating in open gym at Dunbar. The outpouring of support since speaks volumes.
I just think it brings the entire community together and just shows what a great kid he was and how much he was loved in the community.
And inside the school office, there were also flowers and cards from other school districts. Just a lot of support here from around the community. We're covering the news in Lexington from the LEX18 mobile newsroom. Back to you.
A venomous snake bit a 5-year-old boy playing in a Knott County yard earlier this week. Luckily, he's okay. But the family worries that snakes in that area are becoming more active. LEX 18's Carolina Buchek spoke with a family who says they're afraid this could happen again.
Like most days, 5-year-old Aiden Maggard and his brother run around the yard playing. But earlier this week, a game of golf turned into a scary trip to the hospital.
And the golf ball went right here into the creek, into the little ditch.
And the family says right on these 3 little rocks, this 3.5-foot copperhead snake laid out of sight.
He just ran over like any other kid would, reached to grab the golf ball, and the snake bit him right here on his little finger.
It bit really hard.
Aiden's hand quickly swelled up as he was rushed to the hospital.
His hand, just from here to the hospital, about a 10-minute drive, swelled past his wrist and was turning black halfway up his hand.
Luckily, Aiden is doing better.
It's going down a lot, but it feels hurting right now.
But he says he's not ready to forgive the snake just yet.
I would shoot it.
The family says they've never seen a poisonous snake near their home before, but now they'll need to teach their boys to be careful.
And make them aware of the dangers outside and around a normal household.
And reptile experts say that's a good idea because warm weather is making the snake population here in Kentucky active earlier than normal. Covering the news in Knott County, Carolina Buchek, LEX 18 News.
Cute kid. Well, 2 people have been arrested in connection with a violent robbery at a Laurel County Walmart.
More about how deputies were able to track them down is coming up in a few minutes on LEX 18 News at 5. And then at 5:30, a national sandwich shop is celebrating its customers with a $1 deal.
We are tracking the possibility of strong and severe thunderstorms this evening into the latter part of tonight. It's a conditional threat at this point. We are waiting for the storms to get going, and once they do, there is plenty of fuel, plenty of energy for them to get to those severe limits. But again, right now we're still fairly quiet. Max Track Live Doppler, we'll talk about that in a second. We are talking about a threat index that's at a 2, and that's because of 2 things. The tornado watch threat, and the folks at the Storm Prediction Center about an hour ago put out a message that a watch was 80% likely. It hasn't come to pass yet, so that was one of the reasons why we raised it to a 2, but also the threat for flooding rains later on tonight. That's a more significant threat, it looks like, mainly across the north half of the area. Last weekend it was the southern third, southeastern third, from London southeastward that saw heavy rain, 3 to 6 inches of rain. A lot of the rest of us saw less than a ½ inch by the time it was all done. There's going to be another very sharp cutoff with that heavy rain later on tonight. This time it does look to be the north half of the area. With the severe weather threat during the evening, it's wind, large hail, and there is a tornado threat, and we'll discuss all of that coming up. The only thunder shower in progress at this point locally is one that's going right across Beattyville, the northern part of Lee County, extending into the northern part of Owsley County. That's headed off to the northeast toward Campton. Little light rain's trying to initiate here, so it's a sign that the cap that's aloft may be trying to break down some. Nelson over into Marion County. We have a flash flood watch that's in effect through tonight into tomorrow morning. Mason, Robertson, Harrison, Scott, Franklin back toward Shelby County from there northward, again for the potential for locally heavy rain. At the moment, there are some big thunderstorms going on western Indiana, eastern, southern parts of Illinois. A lot of lightning with those storms as well. That's the initial wave here, but we've been tracking the area coming out of Middle Tennessee, western Kentucky. It's trying to come north. It's trying to get its act together. I think once the storms get going, they should develop pretty quickly. And when they do, again, there's a lot of potential there through the night, with the biggest threats coming from large hail, and these storms should be prodigious lightning producers in addition to threat for heavy rain. From the Storm Prediction Center, the tornado risk. There is a 10% chance of a tornadic thunderstorm basically from I-75 westward. That's tornadoes within 25 miles of any given point. So that, again, is the threat from the Storm Prediction Center. That's a pretty high number. But the bigger threat would be from large hail. And, again, Storm Prediction Center, this is their criteria, the hatched area, which, again, you see from I-75 westward, 30% chance of big hail, 10% chance of hen egg size or larger within 25 miles of a given point. And you can track all this yourself with the Storm Tracker app. It's free. You get the Max Track Doppler, all your watches and warnings. They come right there in the palm of your hand. So, again, the strong thunderstorm threat during the evening, heavy rain later tonight. There is a rain chance tomorrow early, and then again later in the day on Sunday. So here we go, future track. There is your warm front coming north. That should be the genesis for these thunderstorms. By midnight, again, you see a pretty good coverage of rain and thunderstorms around the area. That low will then head up toward Indiana, and what eventually happens, we get into the warm sector tomorrow. It gets hot, it gets humid, and we stay there until Sunday evening. So thunderstorms are likely. Strong or severe storm is going to be a possibility. Our threat index remains at 2. Overnight lows in the mid-60s. Can't rule out some rain or thunderstorms early, but most of the day tomorrow, just hot. Mid-80s. Most of Sunday, just hot and humid with the thunderstorm chance coming in for Sunday night. Rain will be ending on Monday. Most of next week, especially as we head toward Oaks and Derby, are looking cool.
And we know maybe the rain could change a little bit, but those temperature trends usually are pretty good, right?
Right now we're looking at a pretty cool Oaks and Derby.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
All righty.
Well, police in Michigan have arrested a professor with an unusual side job.
More about the extracurricular activities investigators say were going on at his home coming up on LEX 18 News at 5:30. But still ahead of 5, the 3 men convicted in connection with the shooting death of a Louisville toddler learn their sentences. In tonight's LEX 18 cover in Kentucky, 1 man arrested, another recovering after a shooting.
It happened in Combs in Perry County around 4:30 Thursday. State police say during an argument, Chester Jones shot Mark Taylor twice. Taylor was taken to a Hazard hospital for treatment. Jones was arrested and charged with second-degree assault.
Just hours after a violent robbery at the Corbin Walmart, deputies in Laurel County announced several arrests. Deputies say a loss prevention officer at the store was talking to a suspected shoplifter yesterday when a man attacked him from behind. The two made their getaway with some stolen merchandise. Today, thanks to tips from the public, deputies say they arrested 26-year-old Seth Harville and 25-year-old Chelsea Roark. Harville is charged with robbery and resisting arrest. Roark is charged with robbery. Deputies made 2 other arrests in connection with the case. 28-year-old Kyle Holland is charged with hindering prosecution, and 27-year-old Misty Harville was arrested for failure to appear.
It was sentencing day for 3 men in connection with the murder of a 16-month-old girl in Louisville back in 2014. DeJuan Mason, William McLemore, and DeMarcus Tramber were convicted of wanton murder, first-degree assault, and 4 counts of wanton endangerment. It stemmed from the death of Nariah Miller, who died after she was shot in her mother's arms on the front porch of their home. Today, a judge sentenced McLemore and Mason to 35 years. Tramber was given a 20-year sentence.
Bardstown City Council members may sue the city's former mayor. That information reported in the Kentucky Standard. John Royalty was voted out of office for misconduct, including violating one council member's privacy. The council held a meeting Tuesday night, giving an attorney permission to answer Royalty's lawsuit and possibly file a counterclaim. The documents are expected to be filed either today or at the start of next week. Dick Heaton was appointed mayor of Bardstown.
Crews spent much of the day cleaning a stretch of a southern Kentucky road because of an overturned tanker truck. The McCreary County Voice reports it happened shortly before 1 a.m. on Highway 92 near Holly Hill. That's when a tanker hauling 8,500 gallons of fuel overturned at a curve in the road. The driver was taken to the hospital to be checked out, but officials say he wasn't injured. The highway was closed while crews cleaned up all that fuel.
2016 was the deadliest year on Kentucky highways in almost a decade. 834 people died on the highways in our state last year. That's 73 more than in 2015. State police say more than half the people who died were not wearing seat belts, and nearly 17% of the wrecks involved alcohol. But listen to this. Almost a quarter of the deadly crashes were due to distracted driving. Almost 2/3 of the 90 motorcyclists killed were not wearing helmets. There have been 210 road deaths so far this year, which is down from 226 at this time last year. They're charged in connection with the 2015 shooting death of a Richmond police officer.
Details about the next legal step for the 2 men in that Madison County case are coming up on LEX 18 News at 5:30. Up next, though, a virtual reality game being touted as the future of stroke rehabilitation. That's tonight's LEX 18 Health Watch.
A company has designed a virtual reality system that's producing some good results at some hospitals.
Yeah, they say the game could be the new way patients undergo stroke rehab. Dia Davidson has more about it in tonight's LEX 18 Health Watch.
Your garden looks amazing. This could be the new way to come back from a difficult diagnosis.
There's a lot of new technology coming out influencing the way we do rehabilitation.
Now, with FDA approval, experts are rolling out the Sabo VR.
Give it a roll.
The virtual reality system, designed in Central Virginia, has patients moving their arms.
We developed our own algorithms to do the motion tracking.
In front of a camera, mounted on top of a television.
I think it's a great tool for the clients because it uses real-life activities. It lets them practice things that they're inherently motivated to get back to doing.
Let's get started.
Those activities might include laundry or gardening.
They're fun and engaging for the patients.
But it's also proving effective. Allison Ellington has her occupational therapy students studying the system as a tool for working with patients.
We've measured patient satisfaction with the system, which has been really high, but most exciting, we were able to show a significant improvement in upper extremity function after just 8 weeks of using the system 3 times a week.
Covering health news, Dia Davidson, LEX 18 News.
The Sabo VR will be distributed to clinics nationwide starting this summer.
Thousands are already at the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington for a big weekend.
Among them, a member of the royal family. More about one of the most prestigious events in the equestrian world is coming up on LEX 18 News at 6.